Okay, guys, I asked you on Instagram if you are interested in a video about how I edit my sunset photos for my Instagram profile. And the most people are want to see a video like this, and that's what this video is about. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to this brand new video. And this video is about how I edit my photos in Lightroom for my Instagram profile. And today I'm gonna show you how I edit the sunset photos from me. And I will show you how I create a photo from the raw file to this photo after edited in Adobe Lightroom and a little bit of Photoshop. And I will show you two different ways today. And the first way is how I use my personal preset for this specific kind of photos, which I created and I tested on a bunch of different photos so it worked. If you are interested in getting these presets, then check out the links in the description, as also you find all the gear I'm using, the lenses, the camera and all the other stuff. It's all linked down below. And the second way is how I edit my photos without any preset. And I would say, without any further ado, let's jump right into Adobe Lightroom. This is the photo we are gonna edit. And as I say before, I want to start to edit this with my very own preset. And the preset is still in my testing presets. And it's called Sunset Preset. And you see, when we hit the Y key on your keyboard, then you see the before on the left side and the after on the right side. And there is a quite big difference between these two photos. So what I'm gonna do with my preset is I leave the white balance as it is because it's looking pretty good to me. I will bring down the exposure a little bit and I will increase the contrast just slightly. The next part I do is I will increase the clarity just a little and bring down the texture just slightly like this. And I will do a little bit of my split toning. I will increase this a little bit. And the next part are just only local adjustments. So I will create a graduated filter on the top and I will bring down the exposure just a little bit and I will warm up the picture. Then I will bring down the clarity and you will see why I bring down the clarity for some couple of reasons. And I will bring down the texture just to make the top a little bit softer. Then I will create another adjustment layer from the bottom to the top. And here I will increase the clarity and the texture because here is a lot of stuff going on. So you see this footprint here and I will bring the texture back to the bottom part of the image. And I will increase the exposure and I will increase the shadows so we see a little bit more of the details here in the bottom parts. The next thing I'm gonna do is I will create a radial filter and I will create a little one and I will create a very big one, so as you can see like here. Let's start with the little one. I will increase the feather and I will bring up the blacks to 100 and that creates this little glow here. Then I will choose a pick. Then I will pick a nice color. Let's take this. And I'm going to the bigger radial and I will invert it too and I will bring up the feather around 70, 68 like this. And I will bring up the blacks maybe around 70, 74 looks good. and I will bring down the dehaze to -9 like this and pick another nice color. It should be the same color you picked before, and now you have this glow going on here on top of the picture. Now I will bring this to Adobe Photoshop. The first thing in Photoshop is to duplicate your background layer, and that is because we want a non-destructive editing, so we want to keep the original photo as it is, and we will work with the first layer. And the first thing is I want to create a level adjustment layer, and I will decrease the black so we get a lot more of contrast, and maybe like this. That's looking good. And then I only apply a color lookup, and the color lookup I always using in my sunset photos is fall colors. And as you can see, the color is so much red now, and that's affecting the completely picture what I don't want. So go to select and then select the color range. Here you can choose between different colors, or you can choose between the highlights, midtones and shadows. And I want to affect the orange color to the highlights. So I click highlights and I can bring down the fuzziness, bring it up or down. And all the white parts you see right here is what the color is affected. So I will increase the fuzziness to around 90. And I will bring down the range to right about here. It's looking good. And when I'm clicking on this little eyeball here, you can see what's before and this is the after. So you got a lot more of saturation and a lot more of colors going on in the top of the image, and it's looking very, very nice. Good. That's all I want to do in Photoshop with these two layers. The next thing I'm going to do is I hit Command Option Shift and E to create a new layer, and this layer contains all these layers underneath. Now I'm bringing down a new Camera Raw filter, and what I'm doing in the Camera Raw filter is I will do some local adjustments again. So I create a graduated filter right from the bottom to the top of the photo. And here I will bring maybe more bluish to the image, and I will increase the exposure maybe like this. I will bring up some highlights, not too much, just slightly, and I will increase the contrast a little bit. The next thing I'm gonna do is I bring down the clarity here a little bit, and I will increase the saturation in this particular area. Next thing, go to basic correction, and I will increase the temperature from the completely image right about this, and I will give a little bit more magenta and decrease the exposure of the whole photo. Bring contrast a little bit more, bring down some highlights, bring up some shadows, bring down the blacks, and maybe increase the whites and decrease the clarity and bring up the texture just a little bit. The next thing we're gonna do is going to the color mixer and change the hue from the orange more to red, maybe like this. The yellows more to orange. In the saturation, we're bringing up the saturation from orange and yellows, maybe around this, and you see it's just a little bit more saturated than before. To the luminance, we reduce the luminance, maybe around this. Yeah, that's looking good. And I think we are finished, so hit OK. And now hit Command S to save this image and bring it back to Lightroom. Maybe let's have a look on my Dreamtime preset. What happens if we apply this? So that's too strong for me, but it's looking not too bad on the image. But we're using a plugin, and that's called the fader. And what the fader is doing, it's bringing down the opacity of a specific preset. So when I'm choosing my preset, I'm going to Dreamtime preset, choose my Golden Hour Darker Sunset preset, and you see it's very, very strong. And if I'm bringing down the opacity of this specific preset, you see what happens. So I will bring this maybe around 15 or 14, and you see it's not that strong than it was without the fader, and that's pretty cool. So I will link you the fader down in the description so you can download it, and it works with every preset you have, and that's a pretty cool thing. Now, what I'm doing to the export settings, you notice that I never sharpen my image. And that's because I have an Instagram preset for me. And that says the format is JPEG, my color space is ProPhoto RGB. I have resized it to fit at the short edge in 1080 pixels and at a resolution at 72 pixels per inch. And now the output sharpening is set to screen and the amount is set to high because I had never done any sharpening to the photo. And if you sharpened your photo by yourself, you just can click low, or you can uncheck the checkbox for the sharpening. And that is pretty much all I do for my Instagram photos when I'm using the LUT. Now let's move on, and I will show you guys how you can create this photo without using any LUTs. And I will start with the profile. There are different profiles you can choose between. You have the Adobe Color, the Adobe Landscape, which will increase the saturation of your photo. You have the Portrait mode, you have the Standard, or you have the Vivid, however you want to call it. Yes, but I want to go, because it's landscape photo, as you can see, so I will choose Adobe Landscape, but it's not necessary to choose between the different profiles, it's just personal preferences. So, and because I know this is a sunset photo, I will increase the temperature to a warmer setup. As you can see, it's gonna be a little bit more red. And maybe we can give a little bit of magenta, not too much. And I will increase the exposure, will increase the contrast, will bring down the highlights to get more details on the top of the photo, will increase the shadows. Maybe let's have a look. Yes, we increase the whites, and we will bring down the blacks. So always have a look at your histogram, how the exposure of your photo is. I normally bring down the clarity to get a more glow effect to these sun areas here, but maybe let's increase the clarity and the texture, not too much. Maybe I will bring down the texture, but we can bring the texture back when we are using a graduated filter. So that's where we can bring back the texture and the clarity as well. Now increase the vibrance. That's not too much, because you can see I got a little bit more of a purple or magenta. So that's why I will not increase the vibrance so too much. I won't touch any of saturation. Now I will go to the tone curve, and here I will do a slightly of an S curve, and I also touches the RGB curves. What I'm doing is I will fade out the blacks and the whites in the red curve, and don't worry about the different colors what are affected now from the tone curve, but when you're using the red, green and the blue one, they will work together after your editing process. So, and I will bring the blacks more to the cyan, and maybe let's play around with the curve just a little bit to get the look that you want. And maybe we start here and bring this more like this. And if you're happy with the curve you created, you can simply just right click on one of the dots and click copy channel settings and bring them all to the other tone curves. And now you see it's working a little bit better together, but you see it's slightly too much magenta. So go back to your basic and bring the magenta more to the green one. And that's looking better. Now bring up the exposure a little bit more, because we affected the exposure as well with the tone curve. Now let's go to HSL, and here is where the magic kind of happened, but there is something where the magic is happening more. But let's bring the reds more to orange and the orange more to red, just slightly, and the yellow we're bringing more to the orange part. And as you can see here, when I'm turning off, that's yellow, it's a little bit too brightened, but when I'm turning on the HSL, you see we have a slightly of an orange and more of a sunset feeling. I will bring down the blue a little bit more to the aqua. Then I will increase the saturation from yellow and orange as well as red, just slightly, not too much, not to oversaturate your photo. And I will bring down the luminance of all three colors here from the red, orange and yellow. Now let's go to the split part, and I want warmer tone in the highlights, so I choose a pretty nice color, maybe like this is a nice color. I will increase the saturation, and if you hold Option, you got one saturation of 100%, and so you can see what colors you are choosing. So let's bring this back to maybe like this is a nice color. So I increase the saturation just a little bit, and in the shadows I want to have a nice blue, but not too much, so I will increase it just a little bit, maybe around 18. I don't touch the details because, as you saw in the editing before, I do this with my export preset. So you can choose. I always recommend removing chromatic aberration. You can also apply the lens correction if you're using a very wide angle lens like I did, the Tamron 17-28, you got a lot of distortion, so the profile corrections will correct this pretty good. Now let's go to level. Let's have a look what we are affecting if we hit auto, and it's affecting something pretty bad, I think, but it's not too bad. Let's go with this. And the last part is calibration. The most people of you don't know that you can change colors with the calibration tool, and this is a very, very powerful tool to edit your photos, especially your landscape photos. So the tones I normally don't touch, but let's have a look what happens if we touch it. Maybe we can go more to the magenta sides, and here we have the red primary, what your camera captures, and I will bring this more to the orange part, and I will increase the saturation. And as you can see, it affects very hard your photo, so it's a very huge difference between the before and the after. So the calibration tool is a very hard and very powerful tool to editing photos. So let's go with green. Let's have a look. I will bring this more to the green and bring up the saturation. Be careful with the saturation, because you see here it's gonna be a little bit saturated. So be careful with the saturation slider. Maybe I will bring this more to the yellow one, and the blue one I will bring more down to the aqua and bring up the saturation. Let's have a look and bring this, like the other photo, back into Photoshop. So first things first, duplicate your layer, hit the levels and bring the black, so to get a nice little contrast into the image. And then, as before, the color lookup, fall colors, and I want to affect this only to the highlights. So go to the select tab, hit color range, and we are doing the same we did in the photo before. So I will increase the fuzziness and the range, and here we go. You can see it's affecting the photo. We only have applied this to the highlights of the photo. Maybe we can choose another color lookup, and let's go with crisp winter to get a warm and colder look now. But let's decrease the opacity to around 40. Go to color range again, and now we're gonna apply this only to the shadows. And let's bring down the range and bring down the fuzziness. So here we go, and let's have a look. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. And now we are hitting Command Shift and E, Command Option Shift and E, I'm sorry, and go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter, and do the same exact settings we did with the preset photo. So we're making a graduated filter from the bottom to the top, and we're gonna make this a little warmer. Bring up the exposure, bring up a little bit of contrast, bring down the highlights again, bring up the shadows, blacks down, whites, maybe increase this, and we will bring down the clarity, and we'll maybe bring down the texture a little, because this is looking way too much. And I will bring down the saturation, because I think that this part of the image and this part is way too much. Yes, alright, so now go back to the normal editing tab, go to basic and increase this, increase the tint. Now let's bring down the exposure a little bit, and we're editing like normal. So bring up shadows, whites a little bit down, blacks a little bit down, and here we go to the completely image and bring the clarity a little bit. And that's all I would do with the photo. So I would do the same things I did with the photo we edited before, and I will increase here the saturation of both from oranges and yellow, bring down the luminance from yellow and orange, just like this, and here we go. So, and then again hit Command S to save this image and bring it back to Lightroom, and here we are. Now let's do the same with this photo and check out my preset, what we can do. That's looking pretty nice, but way too strong. So go to File, plug in Extras, the fader. So the fader is a really lifesaver if you don't want to overdoing a photo editing. So I choose Golden Hour Sunset, and then you can adjust the opacity of this specific preset, and that's a huge game changer. So I would go with 80, and here's the final photo. That's all my editing process for my sunset photos, and you can do as well, you can use the radial filter to make this glow effect. Invert 100 feather, blacks 100. Pick a nice color, maybe like this, and click new. Make a bigger radial filter. Invert feather to around 70, blacks, boom, dehaze, boom, nice color, maybe like this, and boom, here we go, you have this nice glow effect, and that's all I'm doing to my sunset photos. That's it for today's video. I hope you liked it, I hope you learned something, maybe you wanna have this preset from my sunset, for my sunset photos. Check the links in the description. All the gear is linked down there. The preset is linked down. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked it. And if you haven't followed me on Instagram, then this is the account's name. And as always, I hope you have an amazing week and I will see you in the next one. Bye.